Hello and welcome back to another video. Here we're going to be completing the square to solve quadratic equations. So here we're going to be walking through step by step, showing you exactly how to complete the square to solve quadratic equations. So grab a pen and let's get started. So the objective here is to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So there are three methods to solve quadratic equations. So we've already come across the first two. So if a quadratic equation, if it factorizes, that's generally the best method to use. But the problem with factorizing is not all quadratic expressions do actually factorize. So we have this backup method, the quadratic formula, in case the quadratic doesn't factorize. However, there is a third method, and we can actually use completing the square to solve quadratic equations. So we have this example. It says solve specifically by completing the square, x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. So we first need to start off by completing the square. So again, if you're unfamiliar with this, then I would encourage you to maybe have a look back on one of my previous videos on how to complete the square. But if you are confident with this, you would know to complete the square of this, we have to halve the number, the coefficient of x, to find the nearest possible closest perfect square that it belongs to. So it's going to be x plus 3 squared, and then we minus that number squared, so minus 3 squared, and then minus 7, so minus this number here. So that's going to be x plus 3 squared minus 9 minus 7. So it's going to be x plus 3 squared minus 16 equals 0. So now this is the part that's different. So we need to actually solve this. So to solve for x, we need to first ask ourselves, what is in the way of x being by itself? So the three things that are in the way of x being by itself are minus 16 plus 3 and this squared thing here. So we need to use inverse operations. So the opposite of minusing 16 is adding 16. So we need to add 16 to both sides, and we end up with x plus 3 squared equals 16. So then we need to get rid of this squared. So the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So we end up with x plus 3 equals the square root of 16, but it's not just the square root of 16, it's plus or minus. So all squares have two square roots. They have a positive one and a negative one. So we have x plus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 16, which also happens to be 4. So we actually have x plus 3 equals plus or minus 4. And then we can get x by itself by minusing 3 from both sides, and we end up with x equals minus 3 plus or minus 4. So if x equals minus 3 plus or minus 4, we have minus 3 plus 4, which is 1, and we have minus 3 minus 4, which is minus 7. So the two solutions to this equation are 1 and 7. So that is the answer to that question, and we have just solved this by completing the square. So here's another example. So I'm going to start off by completing the square of this quadratic equation. So we have x minus 5 squared, so you halve this number in the middle, minus the 5 squared plus 1. So it's going to be x minus 5 squared minus 25 plus 1. So that is x minus 5 squared minus 24. So again, the thing that's in the way of x being by itself is this minus 24, the squared, and the minus 5. So the opposite of subtracting 24 is adding 24. So we're going to have x minus 5 squared equals 24. And then the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So we have x minus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 24. Now 24 isn't a perfect square, so we can just leave it like that, the square root of 24. And then if we add 5 to both sides, we end up with x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 24. So that is our answer, and we can just leave it like that. So yeah. Here's another example. So this one is a non-monic quadratic. So we first need to start off by factoring out the 2. So we have 2 bracket x squared plus 2x minus 1 divided by 2, so that's 0.5 equals 0. So then we need to complete the square. So it's 2 bracket x plus 1 squared, and then minus 1 squared minus 0.5. So it's going to be 2 bracket x plus 1 squared minus 1.5. And then if we times everything out by the 2, we get 2 bracket x plus 1 squared minus 3 equals 0. So the things that are in the way of x being by itself here is the -3, the squared, the +1, and the times by 2. So let's start off by adding 3 to both sides. So we have 2 bracket x plus 1 squared equals 3. Now we need to get rid of this 2. So we have x plus 1 squared equals 1.5. To get rid of the squared, we square root. So x plus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 1.5. And then to get rid of the plus 1, we minus 1, so it's going to be -1 plus or minus the square root of 1.5. And we can just leave our answer like that. So here's an exam style question. It says solve by completing the square, 2x squared minus 8x plus 3 equals 0. So it says give your answer in third form, so we don't need to actually work out what it is as a decimal. Sometimes you might have to give your answer to 3 significant figures, but this one just wants it in third form, so that's fine. So I'm going to factor out the 2, so it's going to be 2 bracket x squared minus 4x plus 1.5 equals 0. And then I'm going to complete the square, so it's going to be 2 bracket x minus 2 squared minus 2 squared plus 1.5 equals 0. At this point, what we could also just do is divide both sides by the 2 to get rid of it. So if we do that this time, we end up with x minus 2 squared. If I say minus 4 plus 1.5 equals 0, so I've divided this by 2, and I've also expanded, so minus 2 squared is minus 4, so that's why I've written that there. So that's going to be x minus 2 squared minus 2.5 equals 0. And then I'm going to add 2.5 to both sides, so I have x minus 2 squared equals 2.5. Then I'm going to square root, so it's going to be x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 2.5. So your answer is going to be x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 2.5. So here are 4 quick-fire exam practice questions on this topic. So pause the video and have a go at these, and I'll reveal the answers in a moment. Okay, so here are the answers. Well done if you managed to have a go at those, and well done if you got them all correct. So that's everything for this video, and if you found that useful, then feel free to have a go at some of the other videos in this series on completing the square. That's everything for today. Thank you for watching, and see you again in another video. Bye!